Hey there, it's John Nathan. Just so you know, your therapy's showing, and we appreciate that. We are grateful for opportunity in which we are able to engage in the knowledge of what therapy can do for you and how people can apply that in their lives, share and show, and bring forth the positive messaging that is assumed through a lot of communication and interaction with people. We all assume that the things that we're consuming and that is being presented and provided for us have positive connotation. And a lot of times the job and the effort is to search and seek that and then decipher through it. And there are people who offer a limited version of what that positive outlook can do. And so for today's subject matter expert on therapy in their work, in their life, and the way they communicate is Mr. Mike Birbiglia. And Mr. Mike Birbiglia has many faces, many facets within the comedy world, within the marketing world, within the podcast space, but also within the space of comedy in and of itself, of today's version of the elder is a strong word because he also was an influence in one of the largest economic booms of comedy and access to it, which was Comedy Central. And through his history of being able to work at the Comedy Cellar and having that relationship with bigger names than him and learning, and the way that he brings that learning to his podcast, to his YouTube space and his videos, in which he describes and explains very similarly to his stand-up specials about his relationship with emotion and with knowledge, with understanding and what that can do and be and bring for a man, for somebody who's grown up in a very masculine culture, in a very masculine industry. A man, it's a man's world, and we were all just living in it in the days of unprecedented comedic allowance. We did not have the same lens. We did not have the same micro lens on what you're saying and how that makes people feel. And to know that somebody who has engaged in all facets of that, to be in that world is to have laughed at some things that aren't appropriate, to say some things that aren't appropriate, to be in the room where inappropriate comedy and connotation is allowed and being explored, and to safely guide people who don't understand the dynamic of what that looks like, how that can be, and how that is, it's gonna be, instead of policing and controlling it, learning to navigate what is appropriate for you and presenting that in the way that people can receive the message and understand. So Mike Birbiglia brings that to us, and it's again another opportunity for us here in this space of your therapy's showing to emphasize that we might want to take a different lens and another look at the way that we interpret what people's knowledge and wisdoms can be translated into versus the therapy that the tools that they're taught to learn to manage and navigate emotion. Saying the zinger in the corner is not therapy showing. That's wit. That's knowledge. That's humor. Being able to rephrase and align the way that you're presenting your information so that it can be received and accepted by a larger audience and being more economic with your words so that you are able to be the guide of your conversation instead of throwing some shit out there and hoping it catches from somebody, which is a way that we were taught and learned to get attention, to present our information, to present our humor and comedy very specifically through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Like, we weren't all just watching Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor and Steve Martin and then not emulating that every single day. And for somebody who has provided us with stand-up routine that not only shows like, hey, I could be like this is for me, someone specifically who had every opportunity to be a douchebag, every opportunity to be foul and filthy and have grown up in that space. So not only knows how to combat that, but is teaching us directly one-on-one. Like, hey, I get that that's there, but also here's another version of humor and comedy where we can find the wit, where he has the wife whose impression is very, very prominent in his life, where he finds the poetry in life and then has chosen to present that to us in his stand-up routine. The old man in the pool is, and the new one, like where he vividly describes, I do not want to have children. And then shows through his learning, through his therapy, through his relationship, through his learning in a relationship with somebody who's strong enough to be able to have that type of conversation with somebody that says, what are we doing with our lives and where is this going, and still be able to explore that together. The way that Jay Hopestein and Mike Birbiglia bring that type of relationship. Like, I don't know what their relationship is internally, that's on them, but what they present and what they show is communication and emotion, and that is allowed in relationships and in public and in the way you present yourself, and that you can be smart with it, and that you can present a working version of what's going on in your life while still mastering your craft and bringing the attention and the tools and the technique that allow for you to be the best version of you in a space, instead of people controlling the space that you're trying to be in and you having to re-navigate everything you know and all of the jokes you had and all of the way that you present yourself and everything that you thought was funny and the way that you think things are funny, because no one should be able to tell you what you can and can't say. Like, all of that's true. And we're also from a generation, like, if you're in our older years, in our 40s and 50s and 60s, we're like you ain't going to tell me nothing that I don't already know about that. But you can present the way that I can work that out with the audience who wants a different reception. They want a different, a different messaging. And so through poetic comedy, through the bridge that he's brought, that level of seriousness, his emotional connection to an audience within his performance, like, the things that he's saying are very profound and very important and very necessary, especially for men, to listen to another man's perspective about life and love and fatherhood and that fear, and not to mention just the classical fears and traumas that he has had in his life, that to me is one of the best presentations of safely showing, like, you can laugh it off, but this shit still was serious, and here's what I did about it, and here's where I didn't think it was going to work out, and here's where we have the relief, and here's where and he builds and swells and guides and then lowers you back down into a place where you can feel emotionally safe to go on any type of journey with him, even if it gets a little scary and hairy, because he's from the era where you could take it to a place where nobody's comfortable and then everybody has to figure out how we feel about each other in a room. And that's the point of communication. That's a point in comedy that allows for that moment to be like, hey, we're all thinking it. And a lot of the world today is describing it as like, well, you shouldn't be. And there's a big red flag for all of us. It's just like, don't tell me how to think, because that's not natural. But to be able to guide your own thoughts to a better place in each and every moment is a skill worth investigating, and an understanding that is being presented by people who I think are not just titans within the industry, but the educators that I look to, that I've listened to, and the way that I've aligned what I think is funny versus what I was taught to laugh at versus what I was taught to mimic and to emulate in order to get the laugh or to get the attention in the room. Because that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to work it out. We're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to translate each other as we present ourselves. And a lot of us are still trying to translate ourselves to ourselves. And so to have the audience and the guidance and the understanding from somebody who can look at all sides and still bring the most profound thinkers, like the most profound, Ira Murdoch and Ira Glass and every comedian that knows not only his level of commitment to the craft and to the understanding. He's like the den mother or den father, I guess, of a larger group of people who do the thing that he teaches us step by step through his informational podcast, but also shows the example and the demonstration of how it works. Not only working it out, but then how it works and how you present that and how and the continuity of that circles back around again and again. And he's able to do that through each and every moment of his life and his facets of his life, because that is his main source of processing. And that part in and of itself is a tool that you learn about in therapy, that we're all already doing that we all already bring a version of that to our lives. And then when you learn about it and you know the thing that you do, then you can do it better. And you can teach yourself and others how that works for you, as opposed to scraping and grasping at every single opportunity to figure out how to do anything at all and how to make it work for you as you're working it out for yourself. And so we would like to report that Mike Birbiglia and the crew of Working Out and your brother Joey Bag of Donuts and again, overemphasizing not identifying the level of intelligence and wit and knowledge and skill for writing and comedy and that, like, you can live in that pocket and be there. It's very different than understanding the emotion of the world, the messaging of the world, and what that does to people, and how you claim responsibility and ownership of the things that you put out into the world, because you've learned better and you know better and you do better. And so we thank that team and Mike Birbiglia and the Working It Out podcast. I highly recommend you go listen to that if you'd like to learn about how to do a thing, if you'd like to see what a sequence can look like within your life that somebody else is bringing to the table who are successful, so that you understand that they have to do the step-by-step work too. They don't just show up on a Netflix special. That takes effort. It takes skill. It takes try and try again, and then trying again to make it work out in your favor, but also to bring the best version of a product that you can. So thank you, Mike Birbiglia. Thank you, Working It Out. Again, recommend going through each of those shows. I listened on Spotify. He has them available on YouTube, but also each and every one has a charity that he does donation to, that he worked out through COVID, that I think is a very, very prominent and necessary journey to listen through his shows that show through COVID, like what the community was going through, what his community was going through, what he knew to do, and how that worked out for them in the moment of unsure and non-clarity, to bring something of that to his community and to his people. And I appreciated that through the process. And I've definitely taken that on through understanding as I progress through my life, how I want that to look, and how I want to I want my outreach to look, and how I want that emotional connection, physical and familial connection, as long as, and while maintaining my wit and my humor and my sensibilities about me. So thank you, Mike Birbiglia. Your therapy is showing, but also so is your wit and your smarts, and we appreciate that. All right. And again, I'm John Nathan, and we are proud to present Your Therapy is Showing, but we are gauging through the people whose therapy is showing and whose work is showing. So we're definitely wanting to make sure we overemphasize making sure that we know that there is a difference between those things, and that helps us to identify for ourselves that there's a difference within ourselves with that. You might be smart, you might have all the answers, you might know exactly what to do, but to allow for the moment, to bring the breath, to introduce opportunity, and to introduce the perspective of another, allows for all of us to be able to be in a safe and still environment as we explore emotion for ourselves, while putting ourselves in while putting our most vulnerable selves out into the world, and hoping that that's received by others appropriately, as we learn what it is that looks like in a new age or a new era, and a new understanding of emotion and mentality and perspective and community and civility within the world. So check out Mike Birbiglia's Working It Out podcast, where he gives us step-by-step instruction on how to think and be and emote and share and create, as well as an opportunity to look at some local and comedic adventure in the opportunity to donate or to be of service to local communities and charities within his area. Each podcast has one at the end of them, and I definitely think if you're looking for something to be able to offer a moment of stillness or perspective or clarity for yourself, the Working It Out podcast is doing that job. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.